No, 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 no!
The Cleveland Show was a Family Guy spinoff that ran from 2009 until 2013, when it was canceled after its 4th season. Seeing as this was a Seth MacFarlane character, there were plenty of insensitive moments and some pretty twisted bits that you've likely forgotten about. Thankfully for you, we've gone through the show and dug up some of these facts to bring them back to the light. Considering the current political climate in the United States surrounding the border wall these days, this scene is bound to raise some eyebrows. If it were to release on TV today, it'd likely be labeled in bad taste. The scene quickly focuses in on Diego, who is pretty upset over his totaled car. The police naturally come to investigate and believe they are actually faced with an illegal immigrant. They immediately call for the deportation catapult. When Diego tells them he's from Oakland, complete with an average-sounding American accent, the cops say they heard Mexico and cuts the rope on the catapult, sending Diego flying through the air, presumably in the direction of Mexico and certain death were this not a cartoon. Depending on how old you are, you may remember that old Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro movie called Meet the Parents. In it, Ben Stiller plays a character called Gaylord Fokker. We kid you not. Thankfully, for the sake of his sanity, he's given the nickname Greg. This movie spawned 2 sequels, and the Cleveland Show decided to make up a 4th one called, wait for it, But Fockers, which removes what little subtlety that series had and goes a few vowels away from just saying it. The narrator, rightfully so, states that if people keep paying for crap, they'll keep farting them out. And that at least sounds like a pretty accurate assessment of the audience versus film industry relationship. Okay, so maybe the Cleveland Show is not aging particularly well, especially seeing as how this is A, Seth MacFarlane character from Family Guy, and B, we live in a much more tolerant time than we did 10 years ago. That's why watching some of these older clips are quite shocking with the benefit of hindsight, especially when the joke is at the benefit of what is at the forefront of the conversation these days. In one scene, Cleveland tells his wife that, unlike her, he doesn't see age, race, or gender, and that he would expect his black, middle-aged, and female wife to understand such a mindset. Still funny, or is this joke a product of a different time? In case you didn't know, Cleveland Brown is voiced by Mike Henry, who also serves as one of the co-creators and producers on the show. Unlike Cleveland and most of the primary cast, Henry is white. The inspiration for Cleveland came from his high school days, when he knew an African-American peer who said he was from Maryland as opposed to Maryland. Henry bore this in mind and made a caricature out of the accent, which paved the way for Cleveland on Family Guy, who was designed to speak with a funny and stereotypical accent from the interpretation of a Caucasian listener. Likewise, Lester, who is white in the show, is voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, who is African-American. The Cleveland Show did not fare as well as Family Guy or American Dad, and it was canceled after just 4 seasons. It didn't have the same cultural impact as those 2 shows, which are still talked about fondly today. But that wasn't the end of the character, who moved back to his original home on Spooner Street in Rhode Island to rejoin the cast of Family Guy.
Oh, hey, Cleveland.
Hi. Wait, don't you have a show to do? Oh, that's right.
Many cartoons do not feature major changes like this, but Family Guy adjusted along the way each time Cleveland left and then returned again. Of course, if you watch the shows on cable TV, you might have missed that the episode of Cleveland's return was called He's Black, which goes to show that Cleveland will forever be a token character in the Family Guy universe. There's no doubt Family Guy was still one of the most popular shows on TV in 2009. And the success of American Dad encouraged the network to produce The Cleveland Show to further expand the universe Seth MacFarlane established. However, in order to make room for something new, something old had to go. The unfortunate victim of this exchange was King of the Hill, which had been on the air for 13 seasons. Many hoped that The Cleveland Show would at least be as good and remembered as King of the Hill, if it would be taking its place. But it was canceled after just 4 seasons. So it's only natural for some die-hard King of the Hill fans to be a little upset when The Cleveland Show premiered, and a little happy when it was canceled. Giving kids booze is always a recipe for disaster in comedy shows and movies, and The Cleveland Show is no exception. Cleveland ends up giving a pep talk to his son Cleveland Jr., trying to get him to stop apologizing and following every command. which naturally sees Junior agreeing to his dad's requests and apologizing for doing what his dad tells him to do. He forces his son to drink a beer, despite Junior's allergy medication prohibiting alcohol consumption in order to learn how to rebel. The act literally flatlines Junior in the hospital, who miraculously ends up coming back because his dad told him to, which only angers Cleveland further as Junior continued to do what his dad said. We're not really sure what the lesson is here, or if there even is one. Just another portrayal of underage drinking. That brings us to the next case of Cleveland being pretty horrible to his son. Junior can be seen playing with a simple button and sound-making toy while in the company of his stuffed animal. Junior tells his dad he's simply obeying the musical commands of his robotic overlord, which sends Cleveland into a fury as Junior is still simply following orders. He takes away Junior's stuffed animal and goads his son to take it away from him. And the act clearly upsets Junior, who eventually assaults his own dad out of anger, knocking him across the living room. Jeez, Cleveland, not winning any Father of the Year awards anytime soon, huh? Junior ultimately realizes he's stronger than his dad, and uses that to stop his dad from antagonizing him. Fox loved the Cleveland show in the beginning. The pilot for the show leaked online, and audience response was so positive that they renewed it for a second season before the first season even debuted. The network was hoping that the show would ride the success wave of the previous two McFarlane shows, Family Guy and American Dad, but as we know, the honeymoon phase didn't last long, and by the time Bob's Burgers debuted, the show lost its time slot, having to play before The Simpsons. After a smaller marketing campaign and the rise of Bob's Burgers, Cleveland was ultimately axed in favor of something new and popular. The crash and burn of the Cleveland show was also mentioned in The Simpsons crossover entitled The Simpsons Guy. We literally see Cleveland crashing and burning on an airplane. The theme song for the Cleveland show is pretty catchy and set the stage for the show's exposition, including where his new home is down south and the fact that he has a new family that was not featured in Family Guy. One of Cleveland Brown's signature features is his mustache, and the song points out that he has a happy mustache face, and we can't argue with that statement. However, this was not the original line in the song. Fox requested the lyrics had to be changed from "my happy black guy face" for being too racially insensitive. Do you think that was a smart move on Fox's part, or were they being too worried about potential fallout? Let us know in the comments. The Cleveland show suffered from a lot of voice cast shuffling behind the scenes. For the first season, the voice of Roberta was voiced by Nia Long. But going forward until the show's cancellation, Long was not included in the production of the show. Instead, Reagan Gomez Preston took over the voice of Roberta. Likewise, the voice of Tim was played by 3 actors, including Bryan Cranston and Tom Kenny, who covered for Seth MacFarlane during the production of Ted. Likewise, Jess Harnell replaced MacFarlane as Tim the Bear in the 4th season. Imagine if that happened in Family Guy or The Simpsons, where side characters or members of the family suddenly swapped actors sporadically.
You can't hurt anyone anymore.
Due to real-life events and unusual scheduling plans, 3 of the 4 premiere episodes for the Cleveland show didn't actually get aired as originally planned. The premieres for Season 2, 3, and 4 were all pushed up the schedule, forcing other episodes to act as the premieres. For instance, the Season 4 premiere coincided with Halloween, so Escape from Goochland became the premiere as opposed to Menace 2: Secret Society. Likewise, the crossover event Night of the Hurricane was pushed back due to the 2011 tornado super outbreak in the southern United States. Cleveland Live was pushed up in favor of Harder, Better, Faster, Browner. This practice is both unusual and uncommon, as premiere episodes are designed to hook the audience with stronger material than what may be found in the later episodes. Peter Griffin comes to visit Cleveland in one episode, and of course, things get pretty out of control, and Peter gets accused of shooting Junior. It's not long before Cleveland and Peter are facing the media head-on, with cameras pointed at their faces. In order to get the media to go away, Cleveland tells the press that he actually shot his own son. While this may be a guilty plea that would warrant an immediate arrest from the authorities, Cleveland then states that he's black, and his son is also black, which causes the media to flee the scene. Cleveland tells Peter that black-on-black crime effectively doesn't sell, and thus they won't bother reporting on it. In today's day and age, this one actually holds up well, in a darkly satirical kind of way. In the original pitch for the show, the Brown family was going to be living next to a British family. who had also moved down south. The patriarch of the family would have been voiced by Seth MacFarlane. While that would have been funny to see, the writers actually struggled to come up with any funny and original material about the Brits other than tired and old jokes about their culture. So instead of getting jokes about snobby behavior and tea, the British angle was scrapped completely, and the writers created Holt instead, the self-proclaimed hipster next door who still lives in his mother's basement. Do you think the show would have benefited by having a British family, or was Holt a worthy character? Looking back on the show, it's pretty obvious that the Cleveland show would not fly very far today. In one episode, Cleveland Jr. is showing his mom his work on creating sparkling vests. Naturally, Donna shows Jr. some support, telling him that he's done a great job at making them on his own. She then realizes that she has no idea what the male terminology for a seamstress is, and begins spitballing some terms out loud. Cleveland Sr. then interjects, stating that male seamstresses are homosexuals. We're quite certain Twitter would have had a field day if that came out the first time today. And even though the jokes may not be as politically correct as they once were, you can see all of the jokes in their full glory on Adult Swim. The Cleveland show doesn't have nearly the same legacy as Family Guy or American Dad, but the show still does have some fans. Do you wish the show was still on, or were you glad when it got canceled? Do you think these jokes and behind-the-scenes moments are too much for a modern audience to handle, or do they actually offer some witty satire that's even funnier today? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like it in your playlist every day. Thanks for watching!